Hey everyone, and welcome. So, have you ever been planning a trip, maybe to Morocco, and you're looking at the currency, the dirham? You might have noticed something kind of strange. While other currencies are all over the place, the dirham seems incredibly stable, especially against the euro. So, what's the deal with that? Let's get into it.
And that's really the big question we're tackling today. In a world where currencies can go on a total roller coaster ride, the euro to dirham rate just doesn't. It's stuck in this super narrow lane. Now, spoiler alert, it's not magic, it is absolutely by design. So let's pull back the curtain and see exactly how this whole thing works.
Okay, so to really get a feel for this, let's look at some actual numbers. Right now, 1 euro will get you about 10.5 dirhams. Pretty standard. But look at this. The British pound gets you over 12. That's a huge 15% advantage. Meanwhile, the US dollar is trading for even less than the euro. So you see, it all just reinforces our main question. Why is the euro the one that seems to be the steady, predictable benchmark here?
All right, so the answer starts right here. I like to call it the visible hand. See, the dirham's stability isn't just some lucky break or a happy accident. Oh no, it is the result of a very, very deliberate and carefully managed system.
So what Morocco has is something called a managed exchange rate. Now, unlike a lot of currencies that are just, left afloat freely on the open market, totally at the mercy of supply and demand, the dirham is different. It's guided. Think of it like this. The central bank doesn't let it wander off too far. They keep its value locked within a specific range, or a band, against a mix of other big currencies.
And here it is. This is the secret sauce, the key to the whole puzzle of the euro stability. The dirham isn't just tied to one currency. It's pegged to a basket of currencies. And that basket is weighted 60% to the euro and 40% to the US dollar. So with the euro making up the huge majority, well, it's no wonder the dirham's value moves almost in perfect lockstep with it, right?
Now, the group making all this magic happen is Bank Al-Maghrib, which is Morocco's central bank. The best way to think of them is like a financial shock absorber. Seriously, if the dirham starts to drift a little too far from its target value, we're talking more than 2.5% up or down, the bank steps in. They'll use their big stash of foreign currency to either buy or sell euros and dollars to nudge the dirham right back where it's supposed to be, right into that sweet spot.
But of course, no currency exists in a bubble, right? This carefully managed system is constantly getting hammered by all kinds of powerful economic forces from the outside world.
Okay, so one of the biggest pressures? You guessed it, interest rates. Think about it. When the US Federal Reserve jacks up its rates, the dollar gets stronger. That makes investors want dollars, which in turn pulls the dirham down. But here's the flip side. When the European Central Bank raises its rates, the euro gets stronger. And since the euro is the dirham's main anchor, that actually helps prop it up. It's like this constant tug of war. And it doesn't stop there. There are other global headwinds to worry about. For instance, Morocco imports a lot of its energy, and they pay for that oil and gas in US dollars. So when oil prices spike, that can really weaken the dirham. And another thing, whenever there's global uncertainty, a big crisis somewhere, investors get nervous. They tend to dump currencies from emerging markets and run to so-called safe haven currencies, like the dollar. And yeah, that adds even more pressure.
So you might be thinking, with all these forces pushing and pulling from the outside, how on earth does this system stay afloat? Well, that brings us to Morocco's secret weapons, its domestic pillars. These are the country's own economic lifelines that create this incredible foundation of stability.
Okay, one of the most important lifelines comes from Moroccans who live and work abroad. The money they send back home, we call this remittances. It's not just a little bit of cash. It is a massive, steady flood of foreign currency, especially euros and dollars, pouring into the country. This is huge because it's constantly topping up the country's reserves, which acts as a powerful shield for the dirham.
And the other key lifeline? Tourism. Now look at this number. 60%. This is absolutely critical. What this means is that 60% of all the money from tourism that comes into Morocco comes in as euros. Just let that sink in for a second. The country is generating a constant, massive supply of its own anchor currency right from within its borders. It's an incredible built-in stabilizer that helps fight off those global pressures we talked about.
Okay, so now we get the why. We understand the mechanics behind the dirham's famous stability. But what does all this mean for you, for your wallet? Well, now we're going to switch gears and give you a practical playbook, a smart strategy for handling your own currency exchange with some great insights from the experts.
First up, for all you travelers out there, if you're heading to Morocco anytime soon, the takeaway here is super simple. Right now, the British pound is your best friend. No question. Exchanging your pounds will give you the most bang for your buck on the ground. We're talking over 15% more dirhams for your money compared to using euros. That's a big deal.
All right, what about those of you holding US dollars? Well, for you, the name of the game is patience and planning. Here's the pro tip: don't exchange all your money in one go. Instead, think about converting it in smaller batches. That way you average out the rate over time and you're not at the mercy of one bad day. The most important thing is, don't panic. Remember that managed system we talked about? It's specifically designed to prevent those scary sudden drops. And finally, just keep an eye on things. Watching what the US Fed is doing can give you a pretty good clue about where the dollar might be heading.
And you know, this expert advice from our friends at Deviz really says it all. The quote is, fractionner les opérations permet de lisser le risque de change, which basically translates to, splitting up your transactions allows you to smooth out the exchange risk. It's such a simple idea, but it's incredibly powerful. You're just minimizing your risk by not putting all your eggs in one basket on one particular day's exchange rate.
So there you have it. The Moroccan dirham's stability, it is definitely not an accident. It's a fascinating mix of deliberate policy, those strong domestic lifelines like tourism and remittances, and just constant hands-on management. But in a world where the economic pressures never, ever stop, it really leads us to one final big question. What's going to be the next major test for the dirham's incredible resilience? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.